You're listening to Occupolitics, a Harry Potter reread podcast that focuses on politics in the wizarding world. I'm Adri, your host, recovering English major extraordinaire, and someone who needs a major nap. But I'm also kind of over caffeinated, so the highs, the lows, the peaks, the valleys, whatevs.
I'm Helene, your co-host, producer, and podcast resident ball of anxiety.
Aw, we're just two
Yeah.
little balls of anxiety. We're two tired balls of anxiety.
Right. Right. Yeah. I'm to the point where I wish that they just sold anti-anxiety medication over the counter. It would be nice.
We are a strong brand today. We're sleepy, we're anxious, we are definitely living under the cupboard under the stairs. I am actually recording from my office under the stairs, so
yeah,
on brand. But we're not talking about offices under the stairs or anxiety per se, I guess, or naps. Today we're talking about chapter 27 of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, and this one is titled The Centaur and the Sneak.
Yeah, this is the one where Firenze teaches his first divinations class. The DA learn how to make Patronuses. They almost get caught by Umbridge, and Harry is hauled to Dumbledore's office to find that Marietta snitched on Dumbledore's army. But Dumbledore decides to take the blame and make a break for it to avoid going to Azkaban.
I mean, he was like, you could take me and I would have to break out, and I could, obviously. But, do we have to do that? Do I want to really go through that effort? And that was a mood.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was the ultimate power move. It was great. I thoroughly enjoyed Dumbledore in this chapter.
In that moment, I was like, have I based my entire personality upon Albus Dumbledore?
I mean,
iconic, obviously, but still.
Yeah. I mean, as a Dumbledore stan myself, I have to say that that's not a bad thing to me.
Yeah, no, I see no problems here.
No.
I am definitely not problematic.
No. Problematic faves. I never heard of them.
Never heard of them. Well, and before we move on, let's give a shout out to our Patreon supporters to keep, they keep us afloat. And also to, let other people know about Patreon because I don't know if you know this, Helene, but we're always accepting more members, just like Dumbledore's army. And if you would also like to fill out your application to become a patron, you can hop on over to patreon.com/Occupolitics and, put in your payment info and you'll be accepted.
Yes, for a mere $2 a month, you will get access to bonus content for every episode. And then $5 and $10 a month tiers are going to get you some pretty awesome physical rewards every 3 months.
And guess what, you guys? The stickers for January, February, and March are going out this weekend. And they're amazing. If I do say so myself.
Yes, I got a sneak peek at a couple of them and I agree. They're definitely amazing.
I mean, my favorite one might be, Umbridge sticker, so.
Yeah, and when Umbridge is your favorite of something, that's saying something, listeners. So, I mean, have we piqued your interest yet? I think we might have.
It might be all the pink talking. Who knows? Anyhow, for today's episode, we have a special segment for you guys. And this time we are talking about The Girl Who Lived, our series where we ponder what switching the gender of one character would do to the character and the storyline and everything associated with it. Today, we are talking about one Nymphadora Tonks.
Yes, Patreon exclusive content there at the end, so keep listening. I'm really excited to kind of dig into Tonks a little bit.
Oh, I'm
But
super excited.
right. Oh, can't wait. But for now, until we get there, it's time for our Potter Watch segment where we discuss some of the latest news in the United States.
Still makes you laugh, Aline.
Oh, yeah, it gives me the giggles.
I live for this. I just live for making you laugh during our recordings. That's it. I've completed my life's journey. But you know what's not a laughing matter? Today's news. Today, a 21-year-old white man, surprise, surprise, shot at 3 different massage parlors in Georgia, and the majority of the people killed in those massage parlors were Asian women, or women of Asian descent, working at those massage parlors. And it is unfortunate in the way that both police and some media outlets are describing this 21-year-old man, who I am not going to name because he doesn't deserve it, and saying like, oh, he was just having a bad day, or like making excuses like that. And I'm just like, bitch, like I've had so many bad days and I've never killed anyone once.
Yeah, I don't know if unfortunate isn't the right. It's unacceptable. I would say.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
I'm not great with my words today.
yeah,
It
no,
is enraging. Like,
yeah,
what do you mean a bad day? Like, excuse me, have you ever lived?
yeah. I mean, excuses will always be made for white men with guns who kill people. I mean, it's
Well,
just
it's just the way people uphold white supremacy once
yeah,
again. Especially, like when we talk about white supremacy, we're not talking like everyone who just happens to be white. No, we're talking usually like cis white men upholding the white supremacist patriarchy, or white women who definitely can also uphold the white supremacist patriarchy, and all these like hateful beliefs about people being beneath you or people owing you things that they certainly do not owe you. And some media outlets are also like, oh, he was just a kid or whatever. I'm like, 21-year-old,
no,
what?
no.
No, I'm sorry, no.
No, there's no excuse. None at all. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. This uptick in Asian hate and Asian hate crimes, I blame it on Trump.
Well, there's a true correlation between like COVID and how, with Trump supporters and the Trump party, and like people were marketing, for lack of a better word, COVID as like quote unquote the China virus.
Well, yeah, and he referred to it as the China virus, like
Yeah,
in the last
several times.
week. I think
Mhm.
he in that stupid statement that he put out, because he doesn't have a Twitter anymore. He has to put out like these official like statements.
Oh, so those statements are the saddest tweets I've ever seen.
Yeah, and the most recent one that at least I heard of definitely like referred to it as the China virus, and I'm like, are you still going on with this? I mean, like, do you not see the repercussions of your words? Actually, you probably do, but you just don't care.
He just doesn't care. Oh god. Anyway, yeah. So another person I completely loathe. In less terrible news, and by that I mean joyful news, today is St. Patrick's Day, and also happens to be my husband and I's 9th dating anniversary. So I wanted to like shout that out into the universe,
Yay!
because it's not your average man who puts up 9 years with this woman and
Yeah.
never once even threatened to break up with me.
Well, I mean, I'm glad he never did that. That would be
Was
what I consider an unhealthy relationship if he were to do that.
correct. I saw a TikTok the other day, like, there's like, like when you're in your first like healthy relationship thing, and it's like he lets you read the text messages out loud because he's like making, doing the dishes, and like the reaction shot was like, what? What do you mean? Like,
Oh, goodness.
but that's how it felt. Like honestly, when we started dating, I was like, dating can be like this. Like, it doesn't have to be a game.
Oh,
What?
aw, you guys are my OTP.
Thank you, thank you. We are everyone's OTP. Just kidding, but also not.
For those who aren't versed on that slang that I just used, OTP stands for one true pairing.
Yeah, he's it's kind of eerie. We definitely do that really annoying thing where we are thinking the same thing at the same time.
That's not annoying. That's cute.
And I don't know if, and it's always been that way. That's the crazy part. It's not like,
Aw.
oh, we just really, we just naturally fell into it late, 9 years into it or whatever. No, 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 no. Since day one. And that was always a little bit strange to me. But then I was like, whatever. Maybe we're just the same kind of crazy.
I
And
think that
probably right.
I mean, honestly, I think that that's a big part of like finding your person, right? Is finding someone whose crazy matches your crazy, you know?
Yeah. Or as I say, the same kind of asshole as you.
Yeah, exactly.
Just just things. Anyhow, enough about that mushy shit. Let's go on to Hogwarts Debate Club, where we discuss our politics or what we think the politics of this chapter is and make our case. Dun dun
Yes.
dun.
We should
I
get
almost
like
want to
a
put like the Law and Order clip in
I
there.
was just thinking of that. I was like, ooh, we should get like the dun dun clip sat on the soundboard. I would be up for that.
See, you as well. You and I have a connection like Seth and I.
Yes. I also am just like a huge Law and Order SVU like super
I mean,
fan. So
I'm sorry, who is not? Because if a person is not like completely in love with Olivia Benson, I don't want to know them.
I think mild possible spoiler for Law and Order SVU, but I think they're planning on bringing Elliot Stabler back, and
Yeah,
I am
baby.
very excited.
And did you not like hear me right now? I was like lustful over this.
I'm very excited.
I'm like, yeah, yeah, bring that hard hitting Catholic back.
It's gonna be great.
Representation matters, Helene. And, he may be white, but he's Catholic. So, I mean, I'm not really a practicing Catholic anymore, but culturally
You
Catholic.
should really I don't know if you don't already, but you probably do. You should watch Stephen Colbert, The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, because
Oh,
he is a proud Catholic and talks about it all the time.
I love Stephen Colbert. It's
Oh, he's my
another one of
favorite.
my celebrity crushes.
One of my favorite humans. But anyway, let's move on to Hogwarts Debate Club. What is your politic for chapter 27 of Order of the Phoenix?
This one was a deep cut for me. Like I felt it. I want to talk about the politics of social rejection. So when we think about like politics of social rejection, I want to specifically think about like institutions like Hogwarts, right, where your social bonds and ties are so important to your development as both a professional or a student or wherever you're at in that institution. Your social connection and ties have a really important impact on your life. I mean, unless like we're all in a pandemic now, I guess. Like we're all like isolated. But in normal and in the before times, I guess, and in normal times, like your social connections are really important to your development and how you feel as a human being. So a few examples that came in this chapter about social rejection is Ferenzi is kicked out and rejected by his peers because they feel like he's a sellout for going to work for Dumbledore, right? And then we have Marietta rejecting the DA, but that kind of comes back to bite her in the face, I guess,
In the
because
face.
because her rejection of Dumbledore's army is like, Hermione's like, I already saw this coming. I'm gonna reject you right back, you sneak.
Mm.
And then Fudge and Umbridge are like in cahoots to reject Dumbledore and, unseat him because they feel threatened by him and by, his existence, period. McGonagall keeping it like super real, being like, I don't fucking care about you, Fudge. My allegiances here are to the school and to Dumbledore. Fuck off. And Draco leveraging his social rejection of Harry as a weapon to get him in even deeper trouble.
Okay, okay. Um, I ours are very similar, and I'll explain how I think that they differ specifically once I finish explaining what mine is. But as at the very beginning, when I said Ferenz and you said Ferenzi, it made
Oh
me
God, I'm
want.
sorry.
No, actually, you're right. I made me want to look it up because I was like, am I saying it wrong? Is she saying it wrong? Who knows? But according to the lexicon, it is pronounced Firenze.
So I was half right and you were half right?
No, I said Firenze, and so I wasn't even anywhere near right. It's Firenze, and it is Italian for the city of Florence. Fun fact, because I love names and meanings and stuff. But yeah, apparently they say it wrong in the movie, and I'm guessing they say Firenze in the movie, which is why I say Firenze. I also
So
just
I
kind
want
of
to say it like now it's like Firenze.
Firenze, yeah, Firenze. Um,
Firenze.
yeah. So yeah, I just wanted because I mean I've heard so many different it's really half and half people who say friends and say frenzy. So I just wanted to make sure I said it right the rest of the episode because he's also in mine, and so I want to make sure I say it right.
It really revolves a lot around Firenze.
Yes, the frenzy. So
You need a mustache. Oh, we should be Mario and Luigi for Halloween.
sure. I look, but the thing is, we both, but the thing is, we both look better in red, so we'd both want to be Mario. Like,
True, 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 true. I mean, to be honest, for you, I would take the hit and be Luigi.
oh, that's kind. Thank you, because I don't look good in green.
It's okay. It's okay. We all have our colors, I guess.
All right. Well, I'm gonna say what my politic is now. Uh,
After this sidetrack.
yes, we're gonna get back on track. So my politic this episode, this chapter was defection. So defection is the desertion of one's country or cause in favor of an opposing one, usually for either legal or moral reasons. And so the first example that I see of defection in the chapter is Frenzy. He decides to agree to help Dumbledore by teaching at Hogwarts, although he knows it will anger his fellow centaurs and get him banished. And then also, I see Marietta as defecting from Dumbledore's army to the side of the Ministry of Magic by betraying them and reporting on them to get them in trouble, and then obviously immediately regretting it because we're face. And then finally, I see Dumbledore as defecting from the Ministry's control. Not that he was ever really on the Ministry's side, but he was cooperating with the Ministry, right? Because he had to. And so I see him as defecting to the side of not cooperating any longer by taking credit for the creation of Dumbledore's army and fleeing persecution and essentially becoming an outlaw.
I see Dumbledore's defection, as you say it, more as I allowed you to believe
Yeah.
that I was under your control. And now I'm going to dismantle this illusion that you had.
Yeah, well, he was like, I'm playing along, and you've
I'm
angered
trying to
me.
be nice.
Yeah. You've now angered me, so I no longer want to play along. Goodbye.
I really loved what he said about this is one of my favorite Dumbledore moments in the series ever. Is when he was other than the Azkaban when he's like, well, I could break out, but really who can go through that?
Just too much work.
Too much work. And I was like, that's a mood for me, yes. But also he's like, oh, that's where you're wrong. You assumed that I would go quietly.
Yeah, he's like, oh, did you really think I was going to go quietly? Okay.
It's so cute how you think that you're in control.
That's so cute.
So cute. So cute.
So yeah, I did. So like as I was listening to you talk about social rejection, and all of your examples, which were very similar to my examples, um, and like listeners, just so you know, like we totally do not like we just sit in our separate houses in separate states, reading the chapter and writing our notes and not talking about them at all until we sit down to talk about them here
Correct,
on the
correct.
podcast. So yeah, so I was
I,
listening to you
I
talk
honestly
about
don't
it.
even open the doc or like center on my politic until after I listen to the chapter at least twice,
Hmm.
like have all like the things that I want to say, and then I open the doc and like pour it down.
Yep.
And then I don't even read your parts.
Yeah. Well, me too, except for I usually end up doing it pretty early. And so no one else is written in the doc by the time I get
Correct,
to it.
correct. I am, as always, the one who is always late.
I just like to do it early because that's just who I am.
Because
But
you are a beautiful, hardworking, um, what's the thing?
Hufflepuff?
No, but the animal. Oh my god. I want to say beaver, and that's not it.
Badger?
Badger, god damn it. Like I was like, not otter either. That's Hermione's Patronus. I am not my best today. And I'm just like the lion who's like, yeah, I'll just sleep until it's due, you know?
Well, you're like the male lion because the female lions are the ones that go out and like actually get all the food and do all the work, and
It's
the male
true.
lions sleep like 20 hours a day. And they eat the
Well,
other 4 hours. It's like they sleep and then they eat, and that's it.
I am a male lion, I will say. Great hair.
Lion facts for you guys.
Great hair.
Yeah.
Loves to eat, loves to sleep. I don't know. I don't know. An icon. An icon.
Yeah, king of the and still yet king of the desert. Um so yeah, when I was listening to your politic, I kind of saw it very similar to mine, but like very different in one specific way. Where like
Yeah.
yours, I feel like social rejection um takes the control out of, the main person's hands.
Yeah. It's
Um
not about agency.
yeah,
It's about,
it's not a conscious choice
yeah.
to leave that group. It's like
Hmm.
someone else is choosing to kick them out. But with mine, it's very similar, but with mine, they like the person, so like Ferenzi or Dumbledore or Marietta, they're consciously choosing to leave, um, knowing the repercussions, or maybe not even thinking about the repercussions. In Ferenzi's case, I think like I thought that was really interesting because you said that he was kicked out and rejected by his peers, because he decided to help Dumbledore. And I kind of saw it as he knew that if he accepted Dumbledore's offer to teach, he would get kicked out by his peers. And so he consciously chose that, knowing what was going to happen.
Yeah, no, I completely see where you're coming from. I earlier you were talking, and I just wanted to say like that sounds like conscious uncoupling,
Mm,
um, like very Gwyneth Paltrow,
I
but
guess, yeah.
like
I mean, it's still there's more bad blood, I feel like, with that, with like these examples, but yeah.
correct, correct. But so it's interesting to me that your point of view in the politic is to look at how the characters have agency in performing these defections from their social group or a social or a structure, right?
Yeah.
And the way I'm looking at it is about the impact of a decision, or even not many decisions, right? The impact of just being you or and living your truth, and how that sometimes living your truth can be threatening to others and cause social rejection. So I
Yeah.
mean, it's kind of like two sides of the same coin. But I'm really interesting. Oh God,
You
I
are
am
really
not very
interesting.
interested.
You
I'm
are
not.
really interesting.
I'm really interested in untangling the nuances between both, because even though they sound similar, again, you are assigning agency to the characters Well, I think my viewpoint is it's more about like, well, it just happens to them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's just, it just depends on how.
Yeah.
I guess sometimes it depends on your mood. Like, do you think like things happen to you and you just have to do the best you can? Or is it that you are making a mark on the world and actively changing the world around you, right?
Yeah. And I think it's like, people's comfort level with control too. Like, do you feel uncomfortable when you're not in control of your decisions? And I feel like I tend to have issues with control. And so it doesn't surprise me. I know, right? Like when something is out of my control, all I do is worry about it because I can't control it, right? And so I don't know how other people are going to act, and so I worry about that. And that's how my like control issues manifest. And because of that, I'm not surprised that my politic puts the characters in control because that's how I would want to feel, right?
Yeah. I think it's because I don't know, like I know that how we view these chapters and the politics and everything we talk about is heavily informed by our experiences. And one of my very formative experiences was when I was in high school, I I was sexually assaulted by a classmate and I reported it. And the police believed me. Like actually I had a really good experience with the police. Like I know this is unheard of, but I had a really good experience with the police. Like because I mean I was underage, like they even brought in like special, you know, a special division to like take my statement and they were very kind and they were wonderful. But the fallout from reporting that and the social rejection that came from that was so severe that it was even more traumatizing than the like sexual harassment and everything that came before it.
Yeah.
So an experience like that when you're like 15, which was Harry's age, um can like really inform your worldview about like how important your peers are to your development socially, emotionally, intellectually, what have you.
Mhm.
Um, and like, even though I myself saw myself as taking control of the situation and like I would do it again in a heartbeat, I would have wanted to know that there is a fallout that you cannot control.
Yeah.
Even if you think that it was obvious to everyone around us, doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, I know we've spoken about this privately, but I do want to reiterate. I'm very sorry that happened to you. Um, and I'm glad that you had a good experience with the police. And it's awful that that backlash happened.
It was weird. I had a great experience with the police, who often, historically, do not believe women. We know this. I'm not. I'm. I am saying my experience is an outlier, right? But also, I had the experience that people associate with the police. I had it with my principal, with my teachers, and with my peers.
Yeah. So you weren't you didn't escape the bad experience.
Yeah, well,
Um,
I mean, went to a Catholic high school, and like the nun who was the principal was like, "No, he just has a crush on you," and I was like, "This is not acceptable behavior."
yeah. So I mean, you have a very personal experience with social rejection, which informs your view on this chapter and the events that like happen in this chapter. So I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And it's very interesting to me how two people with I mean vastly different life experiences, but similar in the way that we get along very well. We
We
are good
often think
friends.
about the same things.
Yes.
Yeah,
we're very
sometimes eerily so.
Yeah, so we're both very similar, but also very different in terms of like our life experiences. And these two people can sit down, read the same chapter, the same set of words and see it, see something like in the same vein, but from completely different perspectives. I love it. I love that that we have this.
I really like kind of that we bring like different obviously perspectives to this. And I'm curious to know if there are, other people who read this chapter and then they're like, it is nothing about whatever you said. It's
Yeah,
definitely about this. I don't know what you're talking about.
right. Well, actually, I mean, I was kind of fighting between two different politics that were
What
actually
was
not.
your other one?
The other one, it's very similar to defection, but it was desertion. Um,
I was
and
thinking about persecution, which is really similar to social rejection.
yeah, I mean, I could see persecution too. Um, but yeah, desertion felt like it worked for it, like it worked for Marietta. Um, and I guess it worked um for Frenzy, but it didn't really work for Dumbledore. And I don't know. There's just it's just really interesting. I want to
It
hear what.
maybe works best because it's like the rejection of like it could be the rejection of an entity.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm always, as always, listeners, if you read this chapter and had just like a completely different thought, we want to hear it, definitely. Like, write into
Yeah.
us at geopolitics@gmail.com. We don't care if it's a novel. We might not read every bit of it on the podcast, but we're gonna read it ourselves and we'll give you a shout out. But um
Yeah, and
I
sometimes
definitely.
I write back and have like long email conversations with people. So,
Yeah, exactly.
because I'm extra and I have no chill.
Well, now that we've kind of navigated the differences and the similarities between our politics, let's deep dive into them. Yeah, we're gonna do a little bit of a deep dive. So I'll start with the quote or moment that I thought illustrated defection the most in this chapter. I chose when Frenzy asked Harry and Ron to warn Hagrid about what he's doing in the forest.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
We don't know at the I mean, in this point in the book, we don't know that it's, Gruff or whatever. But I don't know why this one jumped out at me, especially with defection. I guess it's kind of like Frenzy um is still has a little bit of allegiance to the group that he defected from. And but it's also it's showing allegiance to both sides really in this moment, right? Like he's like, I want to make sure that the home of my people is being respected and kept safe. So I'm gonna, try and get Hagrid to stop doing this thing. But also I want to make sure that Hagrid is not persecuted or attacked by my people because of what he's doing. So I'm gonna warn him and try and, I don't know, minimize
Brokers of
damage.
peace. Yeah.
Yeah, minimize any sort of, damage that could happen on both sides and try and make it so that people can, live their lives separately. So while he did defect from the centaurs, in my opinion, um he you can see that he's trying to kind of balance that life, that imbalanced life that he has right now.
Well, that's really interesting because I think we can see Firenze as
Yeah.
like a. So we see that even though he defected, he still holds love for his people, his culture. And just because you leave a place and you leave your people behind, and maybe at some point even reject some parts of your culture or what you grew up around, doesn't mean that you don't hold like extreme love and care for that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, I really commiserate with him in that moment. As someone who has left her homeland and has um, at times have to reject certain parts of the culture that I grew up around and grew up in because it doesn't align with what I want to do or who I want to be. But I can make that decision for myself no one can tell me shit about the things I've rejected because I will defend them even though I don't agree with them.
It's a weird, like, line that you have to kind of balance.
Well, it's
Yeah.
like siblings, right? Like I can talk shit about my brother, but
Yeah,
no one come and talk shit about my brother to my face because I will dress you down.
exactly.
It's kind of
Yeah.
the same thing.
There's like a deep down allegiance no matter what.
Well, I think it's kind of programmed in us as social beings.
Yeah. So, what is the quarter moment that defined social rejection for you in this chapter, Adri?
Okay, so obviously this is like a cliche moment, but the scene in Dumbledore's office was so like to me like the tensions in that and like the in Dumbledore's impeccable comedic timing, obviously. But um, we see we see Fudge like trying to find ways, like legal ways to make his social rejection of Albus Dumbledore like be or and Harry be something that he can act on legally
Yeah,
through
like he
Umbridge.
justify it. Yeah, he
Yeah,
wants to
yeah,
justify it.
yeah. And then he brought like his lackeys with him, his or who he thinks are like his complete supporters, and we have Kingsley who like socially rejects Fudge without him knowing about it, which is amazing as a double agent. And Harry being like, meeting? What meeting? Because Dumbledore was like, don't you fucking get there, you child.
Yeah.
And I love it. I really love it. McGonagall telling Fudge where to, put his wand, basically.
Yeah.
10 out of 10. I loved everything about it.
Yeah, this was a great chapter in general.
I mean, iconic Dumbledore. So who do you think sorry, who did you think the character who like embodied your politics?
Yeah, you might have guessed already, but I'm gonna say Ferenzi. Um,
Firenze.
Ferenzi, yes. I'm gonna say him because his defection just seemed it was very obvious, but also you could see that he struggled with it. It wasn't an easy decision. Um, and I think that can probably be true, like for most people who decide to defect for whatever reason, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you know what that makes me think about, and I'm not equating centaurs to this at all, but it also makes me think about people who defect from cults and have to like deprogram at such a level
Yeah.
to where they're no longer thinking culturally along the same lines as they did in a cult, and it's harder for people like who grew up in a cult to defect because that's the culture.
Yeah. And when people do defect from cults, a lot of them still have family members and loved ones that are still there. And so while they do reject everything that the cult stands for, they still very much care for the people who believe in it. So it makes it that line becomes more messy, right? It's like
Yeah,
it's not black and white,
well, it's a messy line, and also it reminds us that like people are malleable and that their brains are like
right?
susceptible to influence and culture and all these things. And we like to think that we're like hot shit and smart most of the time, but like anyone could be in a cult.
I mean, yeah, if they know your weak spots, they know how to get to you. Like everybody has them. Everybody has those weak spots. So,
I mean, I'm very open about mine, so I am a prime candidate.
well, I want to know about what character you thought embodied your politic of social rejection in this chapter.
Well, unsurprisingly, it is one Cornelius Fudge, or as I call him, that brat. It just makes me think about like all the times that uh, I've been told this is a very personal chapter for me, obviously.
Yeah.
It reminds me of all those times that I've been told, like, oh, you're intimidating, or like, oh, there's just something about you that, I was like, well, that's your fucking problem, man. So, like, the fact Dumbledore's just existing out there, right? And Fudge has kind of always been like low key or high key in some points, like threatened by him. And he's
Yeah.
like, you know what I have to do? You know what my mission in life? It is not to lead the Ministry of Magic with integrity. That's not it. It is not to make sure that I am making the wizarding world safer, for my little ministry here. That's not it. No, he's like rejecting all of those things. He's defecting from all his duties. He's like, but you know what I will do is destroy Albus Dumbledore. So he can never take away my job. And by the way, he doesn't fucking want it.
Yeah. Yeah, he's one paranoid uh little bastard. That's for sure.
Tinfoil hat wearing motherfucker. Like some QAnon bullshit, honestly.
Right.
Anyhow, how do you see your politic throughout the book?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of hard to most of the thing that I actually thought of as throughout the book was actually also in this chapter. But whatever. I thought of Seamus switching sides from believing the Ministry and Fudge to joining Dumbledore's army. So like he technically actually switches sides in the last chapter when
Mm-hmm.
he vindicates Harry, or Harry is vindicated. Um, and in this chapter, you actually see him attend his first Dumbledore's army meeting. Um, and that just kind of solidifies his defection of switching sides politically, or whatever it is socially. Um, and eventually, as well as just other people who throughout the book decide to switch sides from basically the Ministry to Harry and Dumbledore's side. That happens a lot throughout the book too, I guess. So I guess that one could kind of be more global, but yeah, I guess that's the main thing I see defection in throughout this book.
Hmm, that's interesting. So mine is that this is, one of the books in the series where we see Harry struggle the most with the rejection of that some of his peers have against him. Like, I know we've seen this before, like in Chamber of Secrets, when people are like, "Oh my god, he's definitely the one who opened the chamber," you know.
Yeah.
But this time around, it's not about people fearing him. It's about people mocking him. Those are two very different social rejections. Like, one of them, he holds some kind of power and some kind of agency. Like, honestly, I'd be like, okay, bitch, like, I'll hiss at you, you know? But like, but in this one, it's like you lose credibility, you are laughed at, and people are like, you're fucking insane, and not in a good way.
Yeah, and well, how different is that from, cuz I mean, I feel like probably some of the most social rejection that Harry feels in his entire time at Hogwarts is like between the goblet, like when the Goblet of Fire spits his name out, and like the first task.
Okay, so to me, that still has like a air of mystique, right? Like, how did Harry do it? I have
Okay.
my eye on you, Harry. Like, you did something shady and I'm on to you. But that still holds like a little bit of, it's giving Harry some power that he doesn't truly have, but it's giving Harry some power, like some
I can
mystique.
okay. Okay, I could see
And
that. I can
in
see that.
this case, it's like, oh my God, you are such an idiot. Like, it's instead of like giving him a power he doesn't have, it's taking away any real knowledge that he has of the situation because he's the one experiencing it firsthand, and mocking him for that, and
Yeah.
gaslighting him into like almost thinking that he's crazy. And like, that, the way that social rejection happens throughout this book, and the way he navigates that rejection with all the hormones, all the PTSD. I mean, this book really speaks to me at an emotional level. Not my favorite plot wise, obviously, because
Yeah.
serious lies, um, and other things. Oh, spoiler alert! Sorry, guys. Um,
I did find out that at least one of our listeners is, not fully caught up on the series. So
So I'm so sorry. Content warning, spoilers.
I think that it's
So
okay.
I'm so awkward. And so the way that he navigates, like, this book really spoke to me on an emotional level because, again, I remember being 15. I remember being socially rejected by my peers. Like, to this day, there are people who still say, you overreacted. That was nothing. Even though I was the person who lived through it
Yeah.
for, months and months. So
Harry Potter and the gaslighting.
Harry Potter and the gaslighting of his peers. So that rejection, that level of rejection where it's not based on like, oh, you must have done something mysterious and powerful, or you must have whatever, is so isolating that and at times makes you wonder if there's something, innately broken within yourself, and it's you who's the problem and not that society is structured in a way to uphold like white supremacy and the patriarchy and to uphold the people who are currently in power. Well, let's move on to let's move this little show all the way along and talk about our dementors and chocolates. Our dementor is the thing that we did not like in the chapter, things we particularly did not care for, and the chocolate is the thing that gives us all the warms and fuzzies. What's your dementor, Helene?
Well, my Dementor is when McGee points out that the person who told Umbridge about the DA meeting that happened in the Hogshead wasn't prosecuted for their crimes against Muggles in exchange for the information they provided to Umbridge. That kind of made me mad, you know. It
Obviously, that doesn't happen in the United States of America.
Yeah, no, I mean, totally, plea deals are not a thing. No, I mean, and like McGonagall points out, like, wow, I see how you guys are running the law these days. That's good to know. And like all the portraits chime in, and they're like, yeah, like back in my day, the
Which
ministry
probably still
actually,
happened back in their day, but whatever.
yeah, back in my day, the ministry actually used to stand for something, and blah 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 blah. So
Back in
like,
my day, we really had more house elf slaves,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, so, yeah, I mean, it was just yeah, so it was crappy that, that person who I think it was like he jinxed Muggle bathrooms or something.
Yes,
Um,
he was the one who got caught with those exploding toilets that Arthur was investigating.
yeah, so he didn't get in trouble for that because Umbridge was like, "Oh, if you tell me all this information I wanna know about this meeting that happened at the Hogshead, I will let you off the hook."
So I think that this actually, I know that we are not going to deep dive into this, but it shows one that the only way to get away, with something you did is one to have victims that the justice system does not care about.
Yeah,
So the Ministry of Magic very much does not care about muggles. Even like they care about muggles even less than magical creatures, and that's saying something. And also to have information that is useful to someone in power.
exactly. Yeah. Yep. So I mean, like, I think it was my Dementor because it did remind me a lot of like a lot of the injustices in our current justice system. So
What do you mean? When, like we have video of things happening and justice totally happens.
yeah, I mean,
Not
Derek Chauvin is on tape, literally crushing George Floyd's neck until he dies, and he's only getting charged with third degree murder. So
oh, that's I did a deep dive into that because the judge actually had dismissed third degree murder charges first, and then
they
they
brought it back. Yeah,
they were only able to bring it back because the I think it was the Supreme Court of the state upheld a third degree murder charge in a different case that was a little bit similar because third degree murder means like now I'm getting into like my like nerd, like law nerd thing. So third
Hmm.
degree murder means like that you did something that could have harmed others, like without regard to other people's safety. And the way it's been traditionally interpreted, it's that it's not one person, it's multiple people, like in a crowd, like firing at a crowd or whatever. That would be third degree murder. But in this instance, and in some states, it is starting to get interpreted as it could be one individual.
See, I mean, maybe they see it as this act led to the uprising of.
No, no, no. But the legal opinion and the reason why they brought it back was because one person died.
Okay. I don't know. I was just thinking maybe they could see it as, this was, I mean, as everyone in the United States knows, the George Floyd murder kind of was the tipping point for everything in 2020 in regards to the race relations and the Black Lives Matter movement and all of that stuff. Uh, so maybe they took that as their part of the third degree murder because people did die in those.
Yeah. So the third degree charge is, like I said, it's like previously it was interpreted as like, oh, you went into a yeah, into a public space and just started firing rounds
I was
and
just
ammunition.
thinking of a
Yeah.
different possibility that it could, like maybe that they could have
Yeah,
thought
no,
of
I
that.
think the law is getting interpreted differently as laws do often,
Yeah.
um, to include like these random acts of violence that end up in, the death or harm of just one individual, because if not, then no one would get charged ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, did I talk about my dementor yet? No?
Nope. Nope.
Yes? Oh,
Nope.
okay. So, my Ted Cruz for this episode, and I'm not going to stop saying Ted Cruz until that Ted Cruz is a dementor until we vote him out of office, please,
Yes,
um,
please.
is the lack of accessibility at Hogwarts.
Yeah, that's a big one, just in
Hogwarts
general.
is a magic school, you guys. I don't know if you knew this, but it has a mind of its own and it's magic. So, how is it that with all the magic of Hogwarts, we don't have a way for Firenze to go into the normal classroom?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, operation isn't a thing at Hogwarts. We know this,
Yeah,
and
but
that.
there's like secret corridors.
No,
Like
no,
there's
I
so
know.
many. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, like obviously, like the first obvious thing that came to my mind was like, oh, he could just app right there. Like, no, he can't. I guess, but no, there are definitely other ways that should like they could make an escalator. Escalators exist. Elevators exist. They did in the
Or
90s.
send Fox down and he holds up to his tail
That
and
would
Fox
be
takes him to the classroom. Like I don't know.
that
How
would be
is this
interesting.
hard?
Yeah. No, I mean it's crazy. That they yeah. I
It
agree.
just made me think about like accessibility and how um, you know, disabled students are not shown at on the book at all. Um
Yeah.
either visible or invisible disabilities. The only disabled person I can currently think of is Mad Eye Moody, and it's because he was disabled on the line of duty. But like when you, I mean, if anyone
Yeah.
can think of any other disabled person, please let me know
Yeah, physically
because
disabled. Um
yeah. Well,
yeah.
you could have physical disabilities or invisible disabilities like, um, you know, Down syndrome
Well, yeah, like I was
is
thinking of
yeah.
the ward in St. Mungo's with, Lockhart and the Longbottoms. Um
Well, but that's more like you know things that happen to them after. Like it's not
yeah,
like they were
yeah.
born like that.
Yeah, not congenital
Yeah,
or
and I'm also thinking like Newt's commander is autistic. That's an invisible disability.
he's on
Like
the
he's on the
spectrum. Yeah.
spectrum. Um and so like Fred and George definitely ADHD. that's an invisible disability. Doesn't mean it's not a disability. It's just
Yeah, and there are no, there are no, like, special any there's nothing to help, like, Fred and George's just type of thinking, like, they're constantly all that's constantly done is, repercussions and punishments and, nothing to
but
help
like
them.
someone with like a physical disability, like MS or
Yeah,
um, I we haven't seen that represented in the series. So is it that people like is that curable by magic and it's other things that can't be cured by magic? Like I don't know.
yeah, I mean, I guess I think of Dumbledore's hand in the 6th.
But that's still something that happened to him.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
It's just yeah,
so is Moody, I mean,
that's what I'm saying. See,
yeah,
that's what I say. Like that's
yeah,
what I was saying. That the only physically really disabled person that I could think of is Moody, and
with his
he
cane.
had something
Yeah,
happen to him. Not just something, several things happened to him for
yeah,
him to like lose his eye and like all the scars and things.
yeah, I don't know.
So that set aside, let's deep dive in some velvety chocolate. Chocolate? What's your chocolate?
Yeah, my chocolate is Dumbledore in this chapter. His loyalty to Harry, his extreme control over the situation in the office, between Fudge and Umbridge, and then and his just I just love this is one reason why Dumbledore is one of my all-time favorite characters. I just love his innate ability to just radiate calm everywhere. Like high stress situation, he's smiling. Like Harry always, and we're seeing this from Harry's perspective, and something happens, and we always see it's Harry's like, surprisingly, Dumbledore smiled in response to this, and it's like, of course he did. He's Dumbledore. He's 5 steps ahead of everyone. Fudge says something, and that shocks Harry, and Dumbledore's like, I knew you were gonna say that, sweetie. Just wait. And it just
Yeah.
makes me I just love Dumbledore in this chapter. I mean, like, we've talked about this in multiple chapters up until now. Dumbledore has been pretty awful in this book, and I've, been sad to see one of my faves be really not a great person so far and not handling things in the way that I would have handled them, at least. But this chapter kind of just brought me back and reminded me, like, oh yeah, this is why I like Dumbledore.
Yeah, like I don't know about radiating calm. I don't think I radiate calm. I feel like Dumbledore has like waves of like CBD, like that roll out of his body. But I am definitely that person who will smile when I know I've got you. Like during like I don't know. There's like this. There's a type of smile that I get when I'm like, "Fucking got you, bitches!" Like
Yeah,
you.
but like when and that is what Dumbledore is doing, but like when you're reading the chapter, you're like in the situation, it doesn't feel like he's being vindictive about it. And I think that's what helps radiate calm. Like he probably is thinking like all of these like vindictive thoughts and like, oh, I got you. Like you think you're ahead of me, but you're not. But
Oh,
in
I
the
always read it that way. Maybe it's because that's my
oh
personality.
really?
I'm like, oh,
Oh, when he smiles, it's like I always see it as him trying to like show that he has control over the situation and show that there's nothing to worry about.
yes, and I always think of those moments as Dumbledore being like, "It's really cute how you think that you can outsmart me," you know.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yep. What
And
about your
that's
chocolate in this chapter?
my chocolate. Unsurprising to anyone who knows me, is McGonagall being the realest fish ever. As per usual. Like she is a gem, a star, a legend, an icon. I don't know what else to say. She's McGonagall. Simply McGonagall.
Yeah, she's pretty great in this chapter too, for sure.
I love her so much.
Me too. Not as much as I love Dumbledore, but
Should I convince Seth to be Dumbledore for Halloween and I can be McGonagall?
I think that would be great. I mean, this is the second Halloween costume idea you've had in this episode, but
Well, yes, because I am tired, and that's where my brain goes. I mean, I know Dumbledore's gay, and therefore is not, in sexual relations with McGonagall. But sexuality is a spectrum. Who knows? Anyhow, that's it. That's it. That's a tweet. Last week we asked our listeners the following question. If you could choose any character in the series to be your boss or manager, who would it be and why? And then we asked a follow-up bonus question and about, who would make the worst boss, but we did not allow for Voldemort and Umbridge answers because that seemed a little bit too on the nose.
yeah, we didn't get any answers to our bonus question, but we did get a few great. I
Guys,
know. Sorry, guys, but no bonus question answers.
well, you
But
know what? It's terrible because now I was thinking too on the nose, and then I was like, well, Voldemort doesn't have a nose, and then that took me
but
down a different. That took me down a different rabbit hole, but yeah.
well, we did get some good answers to the main question. Our friends over on the MuggleNet Instagram account said probably McGonagall. She'd be an awesome boss to have. She is respectable and strict, but fair and kind all at the same time.
I agree. I mean, where's the lie?
Yeah, no,
Where is the lie?
I knew you'd like that one. I definitely knew you'd like that one. Um, and then we got an answer from I think a newer listener. The Rambling Raven Puffs on Instagram said Dumbledore, but please be nice because I am new here and only 4 chapters into book 2. Signed, Jay Z.
Oh my god, lovely.
Yeah, I mean, she must not. He or she, they must not be caught up on the podcast because otherwise we're spoiling a lot.
I mean,
But
do you think? Oh my sweet baby, sweet babies. Do you think they've watched the movies before and now are reading the books? Or I just want to know all about these people.
well, if they are listening, Jay Z, if you're listening, let us know. We want to know where
I
you
want to
are at
know.
in your Potter journey. We want to hear all about it. So
Well,
uh,
welcome to this journey.
right, exactly. Um, then we have one from Honkensteiner on Instagram. They said Remus Lupin. They did not give a reason why, but I mean, good answer.
I mean, I'm sorry. Do we need reasons for Remus Lupin? Because I feel
I
like.
mean, I do think he probably would be a little bit of a moody boss, really happy and
Oh wait, there's a period joke. There's a period joke out there somewhere.
oh, I mean, like, I have a boss like that. One who, like, he's super happy and nice and complimentary one day, and the next day he's, like, in a pissy mood. Like,
Well, what I'm saying is there's a period joke out there somewhere because of the phases of the moon
oh,
and how
I see it.
that's
I
usually
get
how
it.
people talk about periods. Yeah.
I see that. Okay, I didn't know that. Yep, I like that. That's funny. um, and then this next one, yeah, yeah. This next one I am definitely going to mispronounce, and I know we've actually said it on the podcast before, but I just don't know how if I'm saying it right. I think it's like Portuguese or something. I'm really sorry if I'm saying it wrong. On Instagram, they said Neville because I feel like he would respect my time and journey. I like that.
Wow, like that got me right in my heart. Like
Yeah, because
respecting the journey.
yeah, well, because
Wow.
that's what Neville needed, like all throughout school, he needed a teacher who was going to respect his time and journey. And McGonagall did that for him, I believe, or you would
And
think.
Sprout.
And Sprout, yeah, but um, the subjects he didn't do well in were probably because he had teachers that didn't respect his time and journey. And so, yeah, I think he'd be a good boss because he'd learn from those people.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
and
this is my favorite answer. I'm
yeah,
sorry,
so
everyone else. I loved everyone's answer, but this is just funny.
yes, our patron Katya on our very secret Facebook group that you can join if you become a patron.
Patreon.com/HappyPolitics.
Yes, Katya said, "I feel like Arthur Weasley would think I am brilliant and give me raises for things like knowing how to change the batteries in the remote."
I mean, my boss doesn't listen to this, so this is great time for me to say that sometimes I feel like that. Like
Right.
sometimes he'll praise me for like basic shit, and I'm like, this is literally a PowerPoint.
Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, Arthur would definitely be a very, like, positive and encouraging boss, no matter what, I think.
But the changing the batteries on the remote like
Yeah.
got me laughing all day.
Mm.
Like I was just like, this is iconic. Katya, you like McGonagall are a star, an icon, and a legend.
Right. Yes. Thank you guys so much for your answers. We I just loved seeing these every week. I if you guys have tips on how to, get more responses on Twitter, let me know cuz that is like the only platform that I can't get people to tell me what they think about our question of the week. But
I think Twitter may not be what listeners are on right now.
maybe, maybe. But if you are on Twitter, go follow us and tell us the
Do
answers
we
to
need
our
to like
questions of the week.
do, do we need to do a TikTok? Is that what we need to
Oh
do?
goodness. I mean, maybe.
One more thing for you to manage.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. I love looking at TikTok and scrolling through TikTok, creating
I just don't
content.
make them. Yeah.
Yeah, it stresses me out.
Hmm. Yeah, it's fine. Anyhow, um, now this week's question is: would you rather try to divine the future using Firenze's, aka the centaurs, or Trelawney's methods? We see a little bit of a difference here between the centaurs and the wizards and the way that they look at looking into the future. So, which one would you pick?
Yeah. You can let us know at aciopolitics@gmail.com, info@aciopolitics.com, or you can, answer any of our posts on social media, comment on things, send us a DM. We are at Aciopolitics on all social media platforms. Uh, Reach out. You want to know.
All right, Colleen, it is time, that elusive time, for us to talk about the media we've been consuming. What have you been watching?
I actually have something new to say this week, which is exciting because I feel like I've said the same thing the last couple of weeks. But I finished watching Malcolm in the Middle and jumped straight into Breaking Bad, which I had never seen before. So that is a new development for me. I am either at the very end of season 2 or at the beginning of season 3 at this point. I gotta say, I was an avid Weeds fan back in the day when that was on the air, and it does really, really remind me of Weeds, but with meth instead of weed. Uh, and I do really love I do really love Bryan Cranston. Although I gotta say, Walter White, not my favorite character. He's got
Fair,
some
fair.
he's got some really, really big issues. I don't know. But I mean, Bryan Cranston's acting performance in that show, chef's kiss.
Flawless.
So good. What about you? What
We're,
have you been watching and
we're
consuming?
very Italian today between the chef's kiss and Firenze. So as listeners of multiple episodes know, I love the app Libby, Libby, which allows me to um, get audiobooks from my local public library at $0, or as we call it, free 99. And the latest audiobook I've been listening to is called This Time Next Year by Sophie Cousins. And that is Cousens. And it is such a cute, like, rom-commy novel that is not like sappy and gross. So that's it. That's what I've been doing.
Nice. Sounds fun. Yeah, I also, speaking of books, I also finished The Lost Hero, and have yet to start Son of Neptune in the Heroes of Olympus series, but it is off of my bookshelf and on my coffee table, which means that I am one step closer to reading it.
I love it. I love it. First reactions to book one?
It wasn't my favorite, Rick
Hmm.
Riordan book ever, but I mean,
He was trying something new with this one, and I really respect it. It's such a courageous thing, and it was still, to me, it was still a good book. I'm not saying it's a bad book at all.
no,
Like you said,
it was good.
it's not my favorite of his books.
Yeah.
Correct. But he's trying something new that he grows into and becomes really good at throughout
Okay.
that series, because to go from one character's point of view to multiple characters' point of view is fucking insane.
Yeah.
As a
Yeah,
writer.
I think he navigated that pretty well in the first book. It was like the myths weren't as exciting to me. It was harder for me to like visualize a lot. Like that's kind of how I know I'm enjoying a book is if I can like vividly imagine like what's going on
Hmm.
in the book in
Like
my
it's a
head.
movie in your head.
Exactly. And this one it was like, I'm not really sure what this would look like, but okay, cool. Um and I mean, I will say a plus side in his favor in the plus column is that I did like really like and fall in love with the characters of Leo and Piper by the end of that book. So
I
uh,
love them so much.
yeah, Jason is kind of still like, but that's because like we don't actually know who he is yet because he lost his memory and didn't have his memory the whole book. Spoiler alert. Um, I mean, you learn that out in the literally the first chapter, but
So not only is like Rick Riordan as an author trying new and bold things by changing points of view constantly and still maintaining a coherent storyline, which, by the way, fucking hard, but also like he has a whole ass character who has no memory.
yeah.
That's a lot to navigate.
Yeah, and I think we're as far as I can tell, it looks like we might get more of that in the next book. So
Yes,
uh, we shall see.
but it's not as awkward. Trust me, it's fine.
Okay, good, good, good. Yeah, so that's all the media.
That's it. That is all the media in the world. Anyhow, that is it for today's episode. Join us next week to talk about chapter 28 of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. And chapter 28 is titled Snape's Worst Memory.
Yes, but remember, if you have enjoyed this conversation, please take a second to give us a 5-star rating or review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you happen to be listening to our beautiful voices right now. It helps new listeners discover the podcast, which we, we want to grow our community and find new listeners and hopefully help new listeners find us. And it makes us all happy because we like reading the reviews. So please, if you haven't yet, go drop a review for us on Apple Podcast.
Well, like Tinkerbell, if people don't clap, we die. So we do live for those 5-star reviews.
Right.
Quite literally. You don't want us to die. Please review and give 5 stars.
Guilt trip.
I'm Catholic. What do you think I was going to do? Like, I'm honoring my heritage as a Catholic by using guilt, weaponizing guilt. And with that, until then, politics managed. Support this show by going to patreon.com/Occhiopolitics. Our patrons keep this show going. You can find us online at Occhiopolitics.com, and we are at Occhiopolitics on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can email us your thoughts at info@Occhiopolitics.com. Leave us a voicemail at 915-996-1699. And you might just hear yourself on the podcast. Adriana Wilson is the founder and creative director of the podcast. Helene Karp is the producer and social media manager. Allison Pullman is the audio wizard and editor who makes us sound so good. Cover art and physical rewards are designed by Adriana Wilson. The views expressed by the hosts and guests are expressly their own and not representative of their employers or associates. Occhiopolitics is part of the MuggleNet family of podcasts. Oh, you didn't hear that, you guys? But Helene just yawned, and I feel like
It was a good
I am
silent
not
yawn.
very interesting after all.
No, you know that I had like no sleep last night.
That's okay.
Sorry,
I'm running on 2 hours of sleep, baby.
Yeah. But yeah.
So if we're not making sense this episode, we barely slept.
Ugh, insomnia, guys. It's a real thing.